Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ballast Exercise Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Trotta, and I hope everyone is having a lovely day. Thank you so much for listening today. So, today I just wanted to come on for a relatively short podcast, and it's a bit more about mindset to do with exercise than it is about exercise itself. And what I wanted to do today is talk about some of the ways that I'm listening to my own stuff. Now, that sounds like a bit of a funny way to position the podcast. What does stuff mean? Stuff right now is the best word that I have to substitute for advice. I don't like the word advice. Okay. I don't like the word advice, especially when it's coming at you from an unsolicited context. So if you were a client of mine and you were to ask me my opinion about what you should do in a certain exercise situation and we were set up appropriately in those roles and the context was appropriate, I might ask you more questions. I might give you a solid answer. In this situation, though, and frankly, in any situation, what I try to do more is fulfill what I consider my mission of helping as many people as I can feel, function, look, and live better through exercise. And what I found in my 20 plus years as an exercise professional is rather than giving advice, what I try to do best is kind of share my knowledge and experience. I don't like to say things like, you should do this. Even if it would be appropriate, I try to refrain from doing that. What I try to do instead is ask as many questions as I can, as might be reasonable in the situation, and then maybe present some options based on my experience as a professional and or based on my experience as an exercise participant. So what I wanted to do today was share, like I said, a few ways that I'm listening to my own stuff because, as I said, when we draw on our experience, or for me at least, I find when I draw on my experience, what it means is um, I'm looking back to ways I've maybe gone astray in my exercise or elsewhere in my life, and through experience found my way back to what I was trying to do. So here are some ways that I've been doing that lately. Now it's currently 7:48 on a Saturday morning. And you might be thinking, what the hell are you doing awake at 7:48 on a Saturday morning? Well, I'm an early riser. Um, and I actually got to bed extremely early last night. It's almost embarrassing. And the first thing I did when I woke up this morning was work. And that is a way I'm listening to my own stuff, because what I advise people to do, or what I, there's that advise word, what I share with people to do, and this is a pretty common thing from coaches and trainers to share with their clients, is to work on their first priority, their top priority, their actual top priority, first things first. Now, one common piece of advice given by other people is that that should be exercise. And there are many, many good reasons for this. And frankly, up until maybe 2 months ago, exercise would absolutely be the first thing I do every morning. I would be in my gym, Striation 6 in Toronto, Canada, by 5:45 or 6 a.m. With my first professional appointment not being until 7 a.m. And that would be my online Ballast exercise class, which is coming up here actually in about 25 minutes. And I would exercise. And there were many great things about that. But after some strong reconsideration, what I determined was that my first priority right now needs to be work. And I'm very, very fortunate to own a gym and to have the headspace and knowledge, let's say, and experience that even if I wasn't at the gym, I could pretty much figure out a way to meaningfully exercise wherever I was. So by putting exercise not in a back seat, just not, taking it away from the top priority position, what I've been able to do is zero back in on work and actually do things like this podcast and get my message, get my mission out to, or at least begin doing so, to many, many more people. And that feels incredibly fulfilling, and it feels like it's the right thing to do right now. And I have my online class, my Saturday morning online class, coming up at 8:15 a.m. So in about 25 minutes. And then I'll be exercising right after that. There's an opportunity for me to do that today. So I will absolutely get my exercise in. Now, if your health is your top priority, my experience would certainly say that among the first things you should do after, as soon as you wake up in the morning, exercise seems like it should be in there. Exercise seems like a fantastic, fantastic things to do. It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be super intense. It can be something as simple as taking a walk. If you have an exercise bike, it can be getting on your exercise bike. If you do have a gym near you that you've joined, or if you have any other sort of exercise facility that you might avail yourself of, yeah, among the first things that would be a good idea to do in the morning, exercise is there. Avail yourself of those opportunities, and then see what happens. See how your health transforms. And as long as you're exercising in such a way that is conducive to your health and conducive to your current physical, mental, and emotional state, that sort of biopsychosocial model of how we do anything and everything, you're likely going to see some good things happen. You're likely going to see some good things happen, and they'll probably be beyond what you expect. Like, for example, if you're looking to lose some weight, it's a very common goal for a lot of people. That may or may not happen in the first couple of weeks of prioritizing exercise first thing in the morning. However, you'll probably see yourself more productive at work. You'll probably see yourself feeling and functioning better for your family and for yourself, even perhaps more importantly. So if your health or anything around your health is a top priority for you, put exercise first. Watch the good things happen. Like I said, I diverted from that. Exercise is still a high priority for me. Work right now is my top priority, and I happen to wake up at a time where my family is not even close to awake, unless you're my 1-year-old son screaming for some milk at some ungodly hour, or what would be ungodly for most people. Luckily, because I'm up usually by 4:30 or 5 a.m., I'm able to help them out with that too, which is always kind of fun. Another way I'm listening to my own stuff lately is this whole idea. It's something I say to a lot of my clients, and it's something that I say to, for sure, my online clients, and it's something that I would pass along to anyone listening to this podcast. Do what you can. Do what you can. We can keep this in an exercise context. It can be applied quite broadly. The whole idea of doing what you can, in my mind at least, means the following things. Whatever you're attempting to do, you'll have a certain level of ability. Okay. On any given day, that level of ability might change. So let's take exercise, for example. Let's say you take on my experience and you've decided your health or some particular aspect of your health is a top priority thing for you. And as such, you're going to start exercising first thing in the morning. Well, if you're not an experienced exerciser, okay, and you plan some epic, 60 to 90-minute workout that's absolutely going to thrash you, that might leave you in what I would consider an injured state for the rest of the day or the next day, where your body is so sore and you're so tired that you're not able to focus on anything else. Now, there are reasons to push yourself like this from time to time. And I totally understand that. I'm not negating or denying the value of a hard workout. However, if the idea is health first, at least, that's not really healthy. That's not really healthy. So doing what you can, at the very, very least, means do, in an exercise context, do what your body can currently do. Now, the example that I just gave pertains more to volume of exercise than anything else. But even within the exercise, there's this idea that's been popularized over the last, I guess it's like 40 years, that whole like no pain, no gain thing from Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I would personally reframe it as no effort, no gain. In any given exercise that you do, you want to stay within the boundaries of what your body can genuinely do. So if your effort is so low that you don't even feel a sense of effort during your exercise, that's not really going to get you anywhere. A lot of people will say, oh yeah, I exercise a lot, like I walk. And if your walk is more like a stroll, there are plenty of health benefits to that. But in terms of actually eliciting physical adaptations that would improve your physical health situation, it's not going to be a singularly useful tool. There are going to be things that you're going to have to do that are higher on the effort scale that produce the kinds of adaptations that you're looking for in order to improve your health. So we don't want to go that low. But if you're going so intensely in any given exercise, even if it's not that long, let's say you're doing, a shorter workout, a 20 to 45-minute workout, which is a perfectly reasonable amount of time. And within that time, you're finding yourself breaking down in terms of your form. You're finding yourself gasping for air constantly. You're finding yourself feeling sensations through your joints and muscles that don't really feel like effort. They start to feel more like strain or injury. In my view, that's probably going too far. Doing what you can means doing what you can. Forget what someone else is doing. Forget what your friend is doing. Forget what I might be doing. Forget what Arnold Schwarzenegger or any of your fitness and physical mentors or heroes have done in the past or are doing now. Do what you can right now, and compare that to what you were able to do yesterday, rather than to what someone else is doing today. Now, with that said, the other context that I like to bring up in terms of doing what you can is, every now and again, I mentioned, for example, my son waking up at some ungodly hour. That affects my sleep sometimes. And there are certain days where I'm just not able to do what I would have been able to do a couple of days ago. And that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. It doesn't necessarily mean that I shouldn't exercise. It doesn't necessarily mean that I need to it. Certainly, I should say, it doesn't mean that I need to get down on myself. I may feel disappointed, but that's probably a bit of my ego talking, and rather than the adult in me just accepting that I'm a bit tired today, and that I'm a bit tired today is absolutely okay. And furthermore, adjustments that make the effort of the exercise a bit easier might not only be okay, like in terms of psychological acceptance, they might be the key to continuing the process of physical adaptation and having my exercise effort actually be conducive to my health. So doing what you can on any given day might mean accepting the idea that your ability to exercise today is less than you think it ought to be, or it's less than maybe it should be, given your current state of physical progression for whatever reason. Chemical stress, physical stress, emotional stress, you're feeling a little bit sick, or you're just getting over a sickness, or you're suffering from sleep, or you ate something that didn't agree with you, or you have a particularly stressful thing going on at work or in your relationship at home. I mean, all of these things affect us. All of these things affect our system. And when we're thinking about our human system, our physical, chemical, and emotional systems, I think it's, in my experience anyway, it's necessary to accept that sometimes those systems need a bit of a break. They don't necessarily need a full break, okay? But they need a bit of a break, and that bit of a break might mean the difference between your exercise staying consistent and being healthy versus breaking a consistent pattern and either succumbing to all or nothing thinking, well, if I can't do my maximum effort, I'm just not going to do it at all today. Well, that's a great way to hold yourself back for no particular reason. Okay. Or if you are able to push yourself, that might be the situation where you do get injured, and congratulations, you're not going to be able to participate in exercise pretty much at all for a while and have a real setback in your way. So do what you can in terms of your global effort, and do what you can in terms of your in exercise or daily effort. Okay. The last thing I'm going to talk about today is the idea of rest. Okay, so there are a few. I've been sick for the last couple of weeks. My daughter brought some kid virus home from school, and it got to my son first, then to my wife, and then to me. And so here I am, having exercised and in particular done jujitsu at a fraction of the volume that I've done over the course of most recent history. I've been consistently exercising for about 25 years as a participant. And this last 2 weeks has been amongst the smallest volume of exercise that I've done. Now, there are some hardcore advocates out there that would say, doesn't matter if you're sick, keep going. Well, there are a couple of reasons that I would tend to disagree with that. The first is, if you're exercising in a public context, you're in a gym with a lot of people, okay? Or in particular, I mentioned jujitsu. For those of you who don't know much about Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it's very, very, very close contact. You are pretty much face to face with people, face to body. with people for the entire duration of the class, and especially during the rolling or randori, depending on how you call it, you're in very close and personal with people. So if you go into either of those contexts, if I were to have gone into either of those contexts sick, first things first, it's a bit of a jerk move because I'm risking getting other people sick, and they don't deserve that. And I'm pretty adamant about that idea that, you know, put your ego aside and take a break at the very least to preserve passing on your sicky stuff to other people. But even without being sick, there are days where I wake up and I say to myself, I don't feel like doing this today. It happens. I love exercise, but if I have a certain type of exercise plan, there are certain days where I wake up and I just say to myself, I don't feel like doing this. Okay? And that is the kind of day where I then say to myself, that's not really a reason to not exercise. So on maybe not 100% of those days, but we'll say 95% of those days, I find a way to at least start my exercise. And once I start my exercise, in my experience, getting through it is really not a problem at all. Now, there's another context though, that I want to bring up. And you know, this past couple of weeks, being sick, I've woken up and thought to myself, I need to rest today. And the difference between that and I don't feel like exercising today is that I need to rest today is an affirmation of an intuition from deep inside of me that says recovery and rest are what my body needs today. All right. I don't feel like exercising today is something more like my mind trying to avoid this certain effort for whatever reason. If you are affirming, in my experience, if you find yourself affirming to yourself that you need to recover, that you need to rest, then that is the best thing to do. That little voice inside you that says, sleep a little extra, that little voice inside you says, maybe go for a light walk just to get some movement in, or do some, you know, light flowing movement to just breathe a little bit rather than do the full exercise that you had planned. Or just have a day where you're on the couch, or if it's a work day where you're just not really concerned about, you know, leaving the office or whatever workplace you happen to be at on time to get to the gym, maybe focus a little more on your work, maybe spend a little more time with your family, do whatever you need to do to help facilitate recovery, because recovery is where the exercise adaptations actually happen, believe it or not. People think they need to be working out constantly all the time in order to get the exercise adaptations that they want. Recovery is imperative. And if you are someone who can afford to exercise at a high volume because you have experience, because you have that recovery capability, that's great. But even if you are that person, every now and again, there's going to be that little voice inside you that says, I need to recover today. Not, I don't feel like doing this. I need to recover. The affirmation that your body needs the rest, needs the time to have all of your exercise effort and nutrition effort and mental focus effort just facilitated in a restful way. So over this last couple of weeks, I've been listening to my own stuff by actually hearing that voice and saying, okay, even though I feel in some ways okay to exercise, I've been listening to that voice and now I feel great. I feel nearly fully recovered from my bit of sickness. And I'm actually looking forward to my workout today at 9 a.m. more than I've looked forward, to any workout that I've had in a long time. So to summarize today, the stuff that I'd like to pass on to you, first things first, if you need to recover, if that voice inside you says to recover, absolutely, please, please, please do. Okay. And then the first thing we talked about today was first things first. Your top priority ought to be your first thing that you do every morning. The last thing, I think it was in the middle. I didn't do these in order in the summary, but do what you can. In an exercise context, do what you can, whether it's your global effort or an inter-exercise effort, both to maximize your exercise effectiveness, maximize your chances at recovery, and frankly, minimize risk, or I should say, in a more affirmative tone, maximize safety. I hope that this sharing of my experience has been helpful to you. I have some interesting interviews coming up in the next little while for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening and have an excellent, excellent day.